The HubSpot helpline. It's Rob, it's George, it's Casey, Kyle, and Chris. Admin, call in, then tune in. You can't miss this. Every Wednesday at 10. Streaming straight from LinkedIn. Helping with HubSpot. Building community is our philosophy, and we're so proud to be. Helping you with HubSpot. Orange, you so glad that it's time for the
All right, I'm just gonna be the first one to go out the gate and be like, "That's hot." I like the other intro a lot, but this got me dancing. And by the way, aren't you glad? Oh, come on!
Oh, I didn't even get that.
Oh,
yeah. We wear orange on Wednesday. So welcome to the HubSpot helpline. I am the mayor of Inbound. I also snuck. I'll put my music production credentials on that. Shout out to Suno. That took me more attempts than I'd like to say. Separate conversation, not while we're here. But yeah, Orange You Glad was specifically for my fellow dad joke lovers out there. Dharmesh, if you're watching, hopefully you got that. How's everybody doing on this Wednesday at the new time?
Love it.
I'll start with Chris, who's on the call already.
He's not supposed to be here, actually.
George didn't even play the music yet. He's already here.
Doing good. Having a fun week, making magic happen with AI and HubSpot. Just people building so much awesome right now. It's been a good week.
More importantly, your feedback on the new jingle.
I love the place we're in, Rob, where we can start working on that within 24 hours and have it ready next day, man. So good work.
Thank you. Your beard says it all. Casey, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing well. We got snow in Maryland. So kids are home still. I keep saying tomorrow's the day they're going back, and that hasn't happened yet. So
is this 3 days of snow days?
we're on day 3.
Wow.
It turns to virtual school tomorrow.
That's not better.
Which doesn't feel better.
That's not better at all.
Probably worse. Yeah, we miss it down here. George, how are you holding up there?
Oh, brother, I'm doing good. There's still a little snow in front of my house where like the sun never shines. But we're at 35 degrees, which is above freezing for the first time in a couple days. Beautiful. I have not fallen down my driveway. And hey, it's hump day. And so, we're looking towards like what we can do for the rest of the week and kick butt and take names in HubSpot, but doing good.
That's great. It's actually colder here than it is where you are. I know you're more northerly than I am, which may be a first ever. Mr. Jepson, how are you doing on this Wednesday?
Great. It's 18 degrees here, so not as warm as George, but my kids went to school, so that's a little bit ahead of Casey there. Yeah. We have piles of snow here in Boston. I've done an awful lot of shoveling, and we're keeping warm.
So the shoulders look good. They look like you've been shoveling some snow.
Oh yeah. No.
Beefy. We're here to pump you up. Casey, I bet I can make you feel way better right now. Your kids get to go back to school at some point. My kids are grown adults and never leave my house at this point. So there you go.
Kick them out. Make them get a job.
They do have jobs. They work for me. So it's like, where am I going to kick them?
I learned very quickly that since I work from home, I'm like, no, this is my house. Actually, it's no one else's. What is everyone?
Yeah. I want to ask Kyle one more follow-up question real quick, and then we'll recap last week because there's a lot of good stuff to talk about from 1 week of the new time, new format, bringing somebody in. Shout out to Addison. But Kyle, you've been the, I'll say subject, I won't say victim. I'll say the subject of several of Rob's jingles, including the parody of the Jetsons I did, which was about you, the Real Admin of Genius. I think you were the founding person for that. You've heard some. Where does this rank among your all-time favorite Rob jingles?
I mean, this is the first one I think to have like a gospel choir in it. So we are unlocking new levels of HubSpot intensity here.
Yes, very much. This was the first one with hallelujah.
That's a big milestone for you, I think.
I appreciate the awareness and the observation. Yes, wanted to do more of that. Anyway, we're here. We've got a new time, new format. It used to be Fridays at 2. Now it's Wednesdays at 10. There's a rhyme in there somewhere. Last week, we had somebody on for a good portion of the show talking about GovTech. Her name was Addison. I forget the last name. Casey, you can help me out with that.
Dickerson.
Yeah, shout out to Addison. But feedback really quick on the new bringing people into the show in lieu of voicemails from Chris as the bearded and very brainful producer of the show. Is that something we're going to, spoiler alert, do today? Do we have anybody lined up or any forthcoming?
We do not have anybody lined up. I think that is the best case scenario for most of the episodes. If we can, welcome people in. I'm always impressed by the way it happens on the admin's hug, Kyle.
Yeah.
So if we can definitely bring some of that energy over here, and anybody that's watching or interested, like that same vibe applies. So we want to come in and have human conversations, with people. Honestly, like most of the HubSpot challenges, like are helped a lot by being able to just talk back and forth a little bit. So,
I mean, isn't that life? Like, talk it out. It'll get better.
Right. And I'm going to try to be a decent host and offer a CTA here. If you're listening to this and have a problem, I'm not sure about coming onto the show right now, although Chris just gave it away that we don't have anybody lined up. But in lieu of a voicemail, you can just comment or DM one of us. And if you're available or want to be available next Wednesday, if you're not available today at 10, then we would be glad to have you on. What we want to do is create a waiting list. I don't know if that's the general vibe of the team, but we know there are enough problems, enough help, enough humans, George.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I'm waiting for George to do his vocal.
Oh, the
humans. Yeah, we know there are enough humans out there that may need some HubSpot help, coaching, walkthrough, explanation. I found that the conversation last week, and whenever we're provided with more context, goes a long way in helping us more specifically address and ultimately solve the problem. And Kyle just is done. He just fell off.
I'm fidgeting with a lens cap and I dropped it.
See,
think of it as drop-in office hours. We would honestly, anyone you're watching this, you're on LinkedIn right now. Just DM us. We'll send you a link. You can hop in and whatever HubSpot thing you're trying to solve or figure out, we'll do our best to help.
Yeah, hopefully we don't Leo DiCaprio it and provide Hubception and make you aware of a problem that you now can't solve. But if that happens, then the comments and DMs are open. And Chris is smiling today, which means today would be a good day to show up and drop in. Normally, I wouldn't advise against that, but he is smiling. He is on camera. And so today, of all days, in recent memory, is the best one to show up. That said, no dead air. Chris, I'll just keep rambling and talking. I have a couple posts. Go ahead, George.
So I know you have a couple posts, but can I bring up something that I'm curious to get the collective answer to?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Because I have my answer, and usually my answer works. But in this case, in conversation that I had with a human, my answer didn't work. And I'm trying to figure out if it's the answer or the human. So we'll just pause there and I'll ask the question. If somebody is creating everything in deals historically, deal pipelines, and all of a sudden you look at some of the things and you think that could be a service pipeline or that could be a ticket pipeline. And you tell them it could be a service pipeline or a ticket pipeline, and you tell them because of organization of data and it being in the right place for the right process and not having to do with money. And they say to you, well, but what's the magic feature of these other pipelines? Why would I take the time to switch it from where it is? What conversation would you have with the human of why not everything in deals? Why these other objects? What makes it magical? to move forward?
Everybody's
say about
either
dead air?
frozen or processing.
Okay, I don't feel bad anymore. I don't feel bad.
I mean, I could definitely answer.
I was gonna say, I feel like Chris is gonna have the
jam.
strongest.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, we got into this last week a little bit too, but very curious to hear your thoughts, Kyle, after I share mine. This relates so much to like the end state of what people want HubSpot to be as far as automation and reporting, right? Gets dramatically easier when you can separate data out, right? So often deal stages, like we put everything in there just because it's stage and gate, and it becomes activity based and use so much visibility in terms of like how fast it's moving, right? But then also teams and the person responsible for that thing, right? If it shouldn't be the salesperson, like, and the service team, let's say if it's supposed to be a services object, they're responsible for that process. And now you give them a separate record that they own, and they can manage that record knowing that they're not going to get in the way of the sales team by changing properties or asking for things or even naming things in certain ways. Like, that is what I've found to be effective in terms of like putting the position that needs to putting the user in the position to actually do their job more effectively, with this separate data container or separate object is how I would go about
So Chris,
that.
I want to make it even more difficult for you. Now take what you just said and realize it's a team of 1 to 4 humans. Now what do you say, right? Is it because you broke it down into teams, but then does it come to a conversation of like, well, it puts you in the right mindset for the action that you as a 1 to 4 person, but 3 to 5 team, like, talk to me. If it's a small team, what changes in your narrative?
Like getting clarity, and it's hard to see it until like it's in practice, but this is the importance of like deals are built for this. They're built into this part of HubSpot to see revenue and manage sales, right? When we start to use things like a services object, that's more related to like the customer success workspace or like Gantt charts now, like more project management style activities. And just the ability to define these different objects in that way creates this common language clarity that now any decisions that we make related to the deal and how it's built and who owns it now become a lot easier to navigate during the next conversation. Like this data model clarity creates this, the space for much more productive conversations about what's happening in the CRM and what needs to improve versus like, oh, it's all deal stages. Oh man, we really need to keep track of this thing now, but all we have is deals and it doesn't make it sense to put this stage in there. So we're going to make a process that makes less sense, right? Because we're trying to fit it into this place where it doesn't belong.
It's interesting when you're talking about this too, because my mind just shot into a place where the normal narrative I don't go to, but the idea of the like, if everything's deals, then going to workflows and trying to figure anything out from a process standpoint or automation standpoint gets real ugly real quick, because you can't filter it by contact or deal or service or ticket, because everything's a deal workflow, because every process was built in deal. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Kyle, I'm curious because I've been trying to crack this a little bit in terms of when somebody's coming from a place like a spreadsheet or like QuickBooks or something where, you know, QuickBooks, you have quotes and invoices, right? And people are used to being in the same space, but when you just have those two objects, you lose all like most of the reporting visibility and all this other stuff we've been talking about. But then when you bring them in a HubSpot and they're like, I don't want a deal. Like, I just want the quote. Like, let me do the quote. Right. And it's very hard to say, yeah, we do this work right now. So then the reporting at the end of the month, you're not going to spend eight hours putting slides together. It's very hard to say, like, it's very hard to make them feel good about doing this extra work up front because they're just used to being in it day to day. Is that something that you've ever found, like, in terms of being able to explain that?
So it's interesting you bring this up. And I'm a little rusty on the stump speech I'm going to try to give here. But when HubSpot first decided, okay, we need to have custom objects, right? Many of us, all of us, remember a time when HubSpot didn't have those.
Yep.
And internally, there was a lot of resistance to this idea, right? HubSpot is an opinionated platform. If we let people customize it, they'll customize it into inoperability. It'll just be a mess. You'll log into HubSpot and have no idea what you're looking at. But it was clear we had to do this, right? There were real business needs that we couldn't address if we didn't have custom objects. And so the product leader who was in charge of this multi-team initiative to make custom objects a thing in HubSpot had a meeting with me, and he was like, hey, I want you to teach people how to use these in a smart way that will make HubSpot work better for them, not break it. And I said, great. What are the best practices? What are your advice? He said, I have no idea because we haven't built it yet. So you tell us. And so I spent months just kind of like philosophically looking at the sky and trying to think through, and I would like come up with a flow chart of, do you need a custom object, and go through like, no, you need a custom property. No, you need a custom event. No, you need, a view in your CRM or whatever. And I made a version of that, and I shared it around internally, and I got passed all around the product team, and it got lots of feedback. My favorite one was a comment from Dharmesh in Slack in all caps. He said, "This is just wrong." I was like, all right, back to the drawing board. And we went through a few iterations of this, right? And then we got this flow chart. And the thing that was really interesting is I really feel like we arrived at an answer for how to think about this very thing. And in the process, uncovered that there were a lot of intermediate steps HubSpot at that time was actually incapable of, right? Like there were just a lot of things where it's like, no, this shouldn't be an object, except there's no alternative, right? Like custom events was not really as robust as it is now. There were a lot of limitations in like team-specific views and record customization, right? If you wanted the record to look and behave differently, you kind of had to create a custom object, and that's clearly wrong. But now, fast forward, we have closed a lot of those gaps, and it would be really interesting to revisit that flow chart and see how it holds up now. But when custom objects launched, and I made a HubSpot Academy lesson about how to decide if you need custom objects, which may still be live, I don't know. I never showed the flow chart, but that became the structure of this. And like, here's how to know if a custom property would solve your problem, and do that. And here's how, and when I finally get down to the bottom and I'm like, okay, here's how to think about building custom objects. The last thing I called out is you are going to sacrifice something, because every standard HubSpot property or object has what I called superpowers, right? Contacts. If you want to do any sort of emailing, you want to use these cool Marketing Hub tools, it's got to be a contact. You create a custom object, you're going to have problems, right? Companies get enrichment. Deals are tied into all these standard reporting and forecasting things, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's interesting if you fast forward to today, things like the services object or the appointments object are HubSpot standard objects that don't really have superpowers, right? They are sort of blank slates, similar to a custom object. And now that's changing again, because project suddenly is an object that does have superpowers, right? Like the Gantt chart visualization has flowed over to some other things, but as we get project templates and automation and subtasks and dependencies, like you're going to want to do that stuff in a project, right? And so I think the answers here continue to evolve. And it's just, it's interesting to think about, Chris and George, as you were talking, sometimes like George, you mentioned what mindset you want to be in. Some of that can be accomplished just with a custom view, right? We're going to show different properties. We're going to show different cards. And now, even though it's underlyingly the same record, we're in a different mind space. We're going to take different actions. We have different insights. But I think Chris made the point, if I then go updating properties, that might break all kinds of stuff for the team that used it before, right? And so it's really like thinking about what needs to be accomplished, who are the users, and balancing that trade-off between, if we only had one object for everything, great. We would always know where to find everything, right? It would all be in that one object. That's the spreadsheet solution, right? But that starts to fall apart if you need different experiences. It really starts to fall apart if you have multiple records associated to another record, right? That's where like a property has to become an object if you're gonna like associate it, even if it's a very small object that just has a few properties. If you need more than one record attached to this record, that's the only way to get there. I think just thinking through all these things and trying to figure out what is the most important thing, like what is the thing my business cannot live without, and then recognizing there will be trade-offs in the other realms.
So Chris, sorry, Kyle. Chris, can you share my screen? Because this is how my brain works. Kyle's like, I don't know if it still exists. And I'm like, let's see.
There it is.
And there it is. Like, look at that young whippersnapper, which, by the way, I love that I paused it right at the beginning. And it's like, I like feel like this is Chris Carolyn. There's a lot of different ways you can represent blank in HubSpot, right? And so just this idea of like, if what we're talking about is driving curiosity, then head to your portal, make sure you go down here to HubSpot Academy, make sure you search custom objects, and you're going to find this and more trainings that will hopefully help lead you in the right direction, just like we are trying to head you in the right direction today.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And I just like a bit of context of where my thought about ownership and just creating the space for people to do their jobs. Like when I was my only Hug appearance in January of 24, we were excited about doing like custom portals for people and figuring out the problem with line items. Like you got to do custom code to do anything with them. And so like as we started delivering it, it's like, yeah, super flashy, like CMS page, like it's going to look cool. And then, yeah, we're going to do this custom coded workflow for you, right? But just the activity of putting a customer order in a deliverable, like as a part of the data model, was like, that's what people were excited about, because it's like, oh my gosh, we don't have to fit this into this sales box where everything has to be named a certain way. We got to worry about this other team, right? That's where I was like, oh, wow. We're just helping people understand, like, yeah, you can put this stuff in HubSpot without, messing up your marketing and sales CRM, right? So it was pretty powerful insight.
Yeah, Rob, you can send me $20 later because I have made this the easiest flipping show for you ever with this conversation.
I thought about going to make a sandwich and coming back, but I have a weird. This seems to be a common thread, and I don't know if I'm going to trigger somebody in a good way or bad way, but we keep coming back to this theme of like clarity in language, right? And we got a little bit deeper there, but there's I'll give some examples, but language clarity does not necessarily equal like behavioral clarity. Knowledge transfer does not mean behavior change. And so the examples, and I would ask the two of you on my right, I mean, I'm sure this applies to everybody. George, Kyle, you've spoken at Inbound several times, right? And it's I think there's another thing of like shared language doesn't scale as easily as individual language. But despite that, George, Kyle, you can both answer. Knowing what you were going to talk about, did you or did you not practice the speech before delivering it at Inbound? Like physically practice? Not at all.
Yeah. Listen, I remember a year where Kyle was like, I think I lost my voice because I practiced so much, like him and I talking about this. I can tell you for each Inbound that I've spoken at, I've probably given my talk to the teleprompter, to the mirror, to the road that I'm driving down, to like whatever. Anywhere from 12 to 24 times I've gone through that presentation, to the point that like in the last couple of years, because I've been able to change my presentation deck as much as Inbound hates when I do that, but usually I'm talking about something that's changing by the minute. I'm probably giving it 1, 2, 3 times in the hotel room in whatever city that we're in, because, and Rob, for me, and then I'll shut up, it's because my hopes is that the language, the communication, the words that come out of my mouth is going to be an activator to transform the mindset, to transform the actions that they take, to bridge a knowledge gap of like, oh, wow, you can do that. I need to do that. Like, so it's very, those inbound moments for me are very important from a, hang on, from a human standpoint, right? Kyle, your thoughts?
Rehearse is like, that's a really strong word. I definitely go through my deck a bunch. I practice my demos a lot. I have the thing that my biggest preparation is usually like getting my HubSpot account all arranged with the necessary demo so I can do whatever. But so often that is like setting the mousetrap, right? And I know I'm going to click this button. It's going to turn on the automation. It's going to do the cool, wowie thing. But if I practice that, then I have to undo it all and set it back up, right? And that's very hard. And then the other thing is exactly what George is talking about. I have built a career live demoing HubSpot, and at Inbound more than any other time, HubSpot's changing, right? So I am often like, as I'm walking up to the podium, making last minute changes to bullet points and things, and then demoing out, and as I'm demoing, discovering things have moved and changed or been rolled back, you know? And so my presentation style, it sounds often very off the cuff, because no matter how much I practice, somehow it has to be, right? Something always happens. So I try very hard. In the early versions of my deck, I do a lot of talking through it and clicking through it to make sure, like, does the amount of content I have fit the time I've been allotted? But the actual individual words coming out of my mouth have never been heard or even thought about by me or anyone else in the room before they are spoken.
Well, this is less to...
Oh, sorry. I'll shut up right after this. I think I want, this has maybe everything and nothing to do with HubSpot all at the same time. Because I too lean into what Kyle was saying. There has to be the base narrative that you want to run, but the flexibility to pivot or transition into where you need to run. Back up for a second and forget we're talking about speeches. Think about your organization. There's the daily narrative that your organization needs to run, but you need to be smart enough to know when to pivot or transition into the need to go there, because all of a sudden AI happened. All of a sudden video production in HubSpot happened. All of a sudden map views happened. All of a sudden, right? And so, the normal narrative is great, and we can get back to that in a second, but we got to pivot into this section it's like a roundabout in business. Do your thing, come back out, and get on the road.
Yeah, I'm glad you backed up, because this was originally maybe the most important thing from a provoking a thought or a response from me ever. Is the impetus for this was knowledge transfer doesn't equal behavior change. So a couple of good blockers called out. One is that you both said you do practice, and whether it's practice, rehearse, whatever, there's some level of preparation. Two is that you both acknowledge that you do this, I don't want to say for a living, but you talk and do this stuff a lot. So a lot of the times there's core messaging, core narrative, core values, you're involved in this every day. And then you have to pivot and be flexible to what HubSpot, the updates and changes that happen. But for George, I think there's some irony in, not to call you out, but you said all that the goal is to create a mindset shift or a transfer of knowledge. And the way that you do that is through a crap ton of reps. Is an action.
Yep.
And so like just the knowledge transfer doesn't necessarily equal behavior change. That reps come through that. And I would argue that it scales worse among like a shared understanding than it does at the individual level. So if it's your stuff, your speech, your presentation, your methodology, your language, that can scale as much as you want with your learning, but it doesn't share as well collectively or in a group. And the funny example to, put a book into this, I saw a story where a guy, somebody's dad had Duolingo, and they had a 800-day streak, and they practiced Spanish every day, and they did all this stuff. And then they took a trip to Spain, and he could not say a word, like not conversational at all. It was just more of like completing the streak and being involved. But like fluency comes from being inside of something, executing. I've talked to tons of people, I'm sure you have too, where it's like, what's the best way to learn? Dive in and figure it out. Like they're obviously HubSpot Academy, obviously doing that, but most of it, and HubSpot Academy shout out, is like there's a lot of practicals and practicums and training exercises. So the reps, it's easier to create shared understanding through reps than it is with strictly knowledge transfer.
Yeah. So, okay. One, there for a hot minute, I was trying to figure out if you were saying something negative or positive. I was like unsure there for a hot minute of what was going on. Two, I agree with you that it is the reps. This is why like it's about getting down in the dirt and not necessarily needing to know everything, but knowing how to find the answer to everything to stay in the dirt and get stuff done. But also you said something that I've got to unpack here. And I don't know who this is for, who's going to watch this and like take something from this. But this is going to sound weird, I think, to people. I never speak to a group. I always speak to an individual. Like, even if I'm on stage speaking to 500 people, I never speak like I'm talking to all. If you watch me communicate and go back, it feels like I could be having a one-to-one conversation because I want that person to feel like they're the only one in the room. And it's like, this talk is for me. George is saying I should do this. Like, this is how it's going to impact my life and my business. And so, like, if you are a person who speaks for a living or even just communicates on a daily basis, think about how you're communicating more of less one-to-many and one-to-one in any way that you're trying to communicate. And I think it makes a dramatic difference in how you make the humans that you're talking to, even when in a group, how you make them feel and how much more willing they are to activate themselves to the thing that you're trying to teach.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think it was intended to be negative or positive. It was intended to be profound, and I swung and missed there. I think maybe a better visual example is like the function and what you're trying to scale is results and progress and understanding.
Yes.
And so if you think about like a synchronized swimming team, the effect of that isn't as good with one person doing it as it is the collective. And I would almost bet anything that they have to practice as a collective. And there are shared reps and shared understanding of how each person fits in their role. So just back the knowledge transfer not equaling behavior change. If the goal, as a behavioral therapist, I used to say KFT, knowledge, feelings, thoughts, knowledge, feelings, behaviors. Like, you know something or have a mindset, and then you feel a certain way, and then you behave, right? Nobody ever makes you mad. There's some knowledge or some feeling, and then there's a behavior. Or nobody ever makes you hit somebody. We used to deal with that all the time. So that to me is the takeaway, is that despite knowing something, it doesn't mean that you're able to action or execute. And all of this was spawned from Chris saying like clearer data architecture will help. I'm not arguing against that. I'm arguing against being able to execute whatever that data architecture is asking you to do at the time and place and the context that you're supposed to do it. It takes reps. Reps are more effective in scaling that shared understanding than just learning, than just being, passive and having knowledge of it.
It's interesting, Rob, where I love when we get on and have these conversations, by the way, because you have this fascinating way of taking my brain to places that it like has never, just because you talk about different things in different ways. I have never correlated business to synchronized swimming, but when I hear you say that and I think about synchronized swimming, I'm like, okay, let's think about that. One, it's tough. Like, you've got to keep your head above water. Well, how many businesses are trying to keep their head above water, right? 2, you're always moving, you're kicking, you're fluttering, like, and how many businesses are always on the move, always needing to do the next thing? And then I got this visual of like, are you a synchronized swimming team where you're all keeping your head above water together, you're all constantly moving, and you're making this beautiful thing that is XYZ company? Or how many of you are like just all doing the butterfly in different directions and it looks like massive freaking chaos? Because I know there's one visual that I would want to look at my organization and go, ooh, I want us to be that. And the other visual is like, well, why is he doing the breaststroke and I'm doing the butterfly? And why is he doing the freestyle? Like, we don't got our stuff together.
I think it was maybe Mitch Hedberg that said something to the effect of, in my head, I'm Michelangelo, but whenever I pick up a hammer and hit marble, it turns to crap, right? So like being able to have an understanding or awareness and being able to do something are two different things. I'll take a quick shout out break to our sponsors, which are the 5 people on this call: Profoundly, HubSpot, HubSpot Academy, whoever else you want to name out there. I'll also kick it over to Mr. Carolyn, the producer, to see if we wanted to share the 2 links I shared. One is the discussion or debate. One is a shout out to Yamini. I think in one of those, there's a product team. Like, this is LinkedIn, and there were some very cool things that happened yesterday on LinkedIn that if you wanted to go through those, Chris, that we could take a couple minutes for those.
You want to do the post from Will Smith or the which
Yeah,
one?
let's start with Mr. Will Smith.
All right.
Is this the Will Smith or like
I
Will
have
Smith in
so
a
many
HubSpot space?
You're gonna laugh very, very hard as soon as he shares this. And pause for production.
Yeah, dramatic effect. Like, pause here.
Yeah, I'm going to Casey first on this response, by the way. If you read that, his tagline says, "No, not that one." So that should clear up a couple things.
Okay.
It's funny because there are 2 Will Smiths in like the HubSpot ecosystem, right? Like,
Yep.
At least.
There's multiple
Yeah.
Caleb Kings. I mean, I'm shocked that there isn't another Robert Jones out there somewhere. Maybe there is. I just haven't run into him yet. But this was posted yesterday. The TLDR, there's a solution for a HubSpot client, one that has enterprise hubs. Never done this. It worked. Error, back and forth with details, paraphrasing, testing this. It's changing, right? And he tagged John Dick. Just scroll down, if you don't mind, Chris, to almost instantly you have John, and there's the spoiler of the update. But you have John Dick. It's showing up for me. I need to look into this one. Sorry, and will be fixed soon. And then it's already fixed. This was less than 3 hours, I believe, after this was posted initially. And for any other context, I mean, he is Will Smith, but I don't think he's, has 50, 100,000 followers. This is just somebody that tagged, that shouted out into the community with a problem. It was resolved that day. And this is John Dick, who, by the way, is what is his actual title? The VP of Customer Success. It's John Dick.
Yeah, he's head of all of customer support success. He's executive level.
I mean, let's be honest. He's John Dick.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
That's
enough said, right? That's in the same titular level as Will Smith. So John Dick and Will Smith walk into a bar, and HubSpot was resolved same day, nearly instantly. So shout out there. Chris, if you could, because this is almost a reverse segue into the other post from Michael Curson.
Yeah, getting there. I just want to note, like, the fun being had in this thread, like, while the problem gets solved too. Like, it's rare to find ecosystems like that in tech, in my opinion. So
yes, this is where I'll let Casey open it up, because this goes into this, and I actually led with the example first. But HubSpot's paying Yamini to be on LinkedIn, whatever. Very bold hook. But the point he's making overall is that executive teams, and he did some math, which is like, let's assume she spends 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn posting. Is this a team doing it for her? Is it AI? My argument in the comments was that exec teams should do this. They should take a couple of minutes to engage because of brand cohesion, which is HubSpot is saying, we're not replacing humans, we're assisting them. We're enabling them, right? And so being involved in the community is something that not only HubSpot is known for, but the executive team is known. I've seen tons of posts where people comment and say whatever. Dharmesh is notorious for doing this, responding to comments, posting, getting feedback, testing, whatever. And the John Dick example was, to me, exactly that, right? Mm-hmm. Social listening, solving a problem, helping a customer, literally a customer. I don't want to say in real time, but for a C-level of HubSpot is essentially real time. So I wanted to open it up to the team, but Casey first on just overall thoughts, impressions on this post, and then the example from Will Smith and John Dick.
So I've noticed in my own like comments an increase in like AI comments, AI engagement. And I'm not saying Yamini is or isn't using AI for her post, to be clear, but there is like I've been getting comments on my post and I'm like, that is not what that person posted. That is what AI posted for that person. So I think the increase in AI makes a lot of people more sensitive to it, which is why, George, get ready for the human reactions, like the example that you showed, stand out even more and are even more important. I think that's what sets people apart, sets HubSpot apart. We all know Dharmesh is very active on LinkedIn, and he's making a lot of posts that cause conversations and things like that and engagement, not just, AI slop, basically. So I think that's the difference, is if you're able to get your executives to add value, that's going to, just amplify everything.
Yeah. I think this is like a lot of the struggle with loop marketing right now, is connecting these two dots, right? Like if you're like, HubSpot can enable you to show up in the way that John did. He's got time to do that. He's able to feel good about prioritizing that, because all of the other stuff that usually would have gotten in the way of that, like the admin, the management, like you have to build the system like to support not having to worry about that stuff, and knowing that he can, like, the ability to be listening and catch that comment on LinkedIn, like where there's 1 billion people on LinkedIn, be able to respond that quickly, and then have systems in the place where he can get to the person that can solve that problem very quickly. Yep. Right. And then just the socialization of Brian Halligan coming in and saying, like, good job, dude.
Yeah, I think there's a leadership. John's comment about, I thought you only expressed yourself in song, was not AI. He wrote that. So that shares that just displays some context. And not to cut you off, I just think it's C-suite or not, Kyle Jepsen is also on this call right now. And as in the brand cohesion theme of being an evangelist and being kind of the front face and helping people with all of that and HubSpot, all of that stuff, he is doing what we are talking about right now. It'd be different if either the product or the people responsible for the product didn't do one of those things. And by one of those things, I mean their tagline: solving for the customer, helping millions grow better. We are, he's to my right, this man right here is currently doing this as we speak. So to Kyle, your impression of I mean, you don't have to weigh in on AI team, money, cost, should they pay Yamini for LinkedIn, any of that. That's not really the point, but just your experience and I guess part of your role. Like, how do you feel about those two observations and the fact that John, responded and fixed the problem as quickly?
So there's a lot. I'll take a running start at this.
I have some thoughts too, but roll.
I recently hit 10 years at HubSpot. I have by far spent the bulk of my career at this company. And so I am often blind to what makes it special and different, what is unusual and surprising. People will come from other companies and get hired into HubSpot, and they'll be like, whoa, what? You're allowed to do that? Whoa, I'm allowed to do this? Whoa, we are able to do this thing. And I feel like I'm very bad at personally appreciating that, because I spent so little time other places before I landed here. But with that said, when HubSpot Academy made the decision that the stuff I was doing online should be my job, and they invented this evangelist role and put me into it. My manager asked me like, "Hey, can you do some research on just out what is the state of evangelism? Like, how are other companies approaching this? You know, this employee evangelism, right? This was your side job. You just talked about your company. What's that like? What's the state of it?" And so I went out and researched, and I can't get behind to the experiences and assumptions people brought when they wrote these articles. But I found a lot of articles that were like, "Hey, companies, stop telling your employees they're not allowed to talk about your company on social media." It's apparently a very big problem. Apparently, if I had done what I did with HubSpot Tips and Tricks at many other companies, I would have gotten in trouble. I would have maybe had to face some disciplinary action for sharing things that hadn't been shared by legal or hadn't been approved by marketing, you know? And that's a little crazy. It's yeah. Anyway, so HubSpot has always been very tolerant of this, and with me, they've been very supportive, which is great. And so I think it has always been the case that at all levels, but we've especially seen up top, our executives are pretty active on social media and are willing to just like make comments on posts. And I think that's great. That said, you underplay it when you say I'm not an executive, Rob. I'm as far from being an executive as you could possibly be. I'm not in any of these inner circles. I'm not in these planning meetings. So my perspective is as much of an outsider and just a denizen of LinkedIn as the rest of you. But I think 2026, HubSpot's executive team is making a real push on this. I first noticed it with Dharmesh. He's always been active on LinkedIn. He's always, he'll occasionally pop up in calls like this, right? Just for fun. He's a guy who is out on the internet. But there have been a few of my posts recently and other posts I've been tagged in or otherwise involved in where he'll show up and be like, "This is a great point." And he'll like mention Karen, who is our head of product, right? And be like, "Hey, we should address this." And he's been using this hashtag like HubSpot 1,000 delights or something like that. Like it seems like he has a personal goal to delight 1,000 individual HubSpot users just through these LinkedIn interactions, right? Which is cool. And so I was like, "Oh, that's Dharmesh. He's got a personal goal. That's awesome." But then this thing with John Dick, right? Like he also has been pretty active lately. He's always been really good at like sharing videos and like talking through things and explaining stuff, but just popping up in comments and calling in other people and making things happen. That's awesome. And I suspect, but don't know for sure, that this is like a conscientious effort. The executive team at some point decided in 2026, let's see how this goes. And it's going well, I think.
So, yes, it's going well. And by the way, it's not surprising. So listen, I entered the HubSpot ecosystem in 2012. Now I want you to think about that. I don't work for HubSpot. I'm not a VP of HubSpot. I entered the HubSpot ecosystem in 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, that is 14 years of my life that I have stayed in this community. If this community sucked, I would not be here. I would not have spent 14 years of my life in a sucky community with sucky VPs building sucky software that just was extracting money. Like I would not be here. I'm not that type of guy. And so I want you to think about 14 years since 2012. And what got me was you can do marketing in a human way. You can do marketing in a human way. Let me break down when you share those posts, what I see and what I think. One, I see humans who care. They love the people who are using the product. They love the company that they're working for. They love the life that they have because of the company that they're working for and the humans they're helping. Number two, I see a priority from caring to take care of the humans, the company, to keep it positive, to keep it rolling. Number three, I see time. Why? Because it's a priority. I invest time to spend time online, to look at these humans, to actually have human conversations versus AI conversations, because I'm gaming a system. No, I'm not gaming a system. I'm delighting a customer base. I'm delighting humans. And therefore, because I care, I've made it a priority and I'm taking time to do it. I can hang out where the humans are. And I can hang out with the humans with flexibility and freedom to fix these problems. By the way, this is not an executive conversation. This is an every human that works at every organization conversation. If you don't care, make it a priority, take the time, hang out with freedom and flexibility, you're probably going to be out of business in the next year to 5 years because the world is changing. I'm done here.
I think it's a good time to point out that there's like lead by example, which we know, but there's a weird, interesting, maybe underspoken, to Kyle's point, dynamic of delighting by example. And so because of the unique nature of HubSpot being a software product and company and having this ecosystem of services and solutions partners and 300,000 customers, whatever it is now, the question comes up, I've seen people in Sprocketeer and that are consultants and partners and people on LinkedIn that are in and around the community that take time out of their day. Karsten would be a great example of this, but to answer and provide value without value being expected in return and with no element of reciprocity. So do you think that inspired the executive team to do more of that, like John Dick did, answer? Or do you think that approach and willingness to invest time into the community therefore causes people like George Thomas and Chris Carolyn, Casey Hawkins and Kyle Jepson and others to do the same, which is solve for peers, right? Whether they're a customer yet or not is irrelevant. They are solving for peers. I guess a lot of the time those are customers or people that use the product, but there's a chicken or egg concept that came up, which is, go ahead.
I also wonder how much of this is powered by AI. Like one of the series I do is with my friend Trisha, and what we've been covering is what tools sales teams are using to make, what AI tools sales teams are using to make their jobs easier. And Caleb King, friend of Superid, friend of the pod, he said he doesn't really like using a lot of AI tools. And I said, I think that's why you would be great to be on our show, because what he uses them for is simple stuff, call recording, so he can like pay more attention. And I have to think like from the executive team, like what were they spending their time on that they now don't have to, so that they can be more tuned in on LinkedIn and things like that. I have no idea what an executive team person was doing prior to AI, but I have to think AI is helping them do a lot of that stuff now.
That's a great point and a callback to the Kyle Jepson. I used to take 3 weeks to review this data and spreadsheets and whatever, and now I don't have to do that as much. So now I can just focus on the human part, the style, the nuance part.
I'm so glad that loop marketing was highlighted in this post, because it's been frustrating to hear over and over. I understand where it's coming from, but the confusion related to how this was delivered, and all most people could do is like, HubSpot's got a product to sell. HubSpot's got a product to sell. It's finally a framework because they can sell the product. No, like it's what you need to do so that you can show up as a human.
Yeah, can I take a stab at that in our last 45 seconds here? The
Absolutely.
thing I love most about HubSpot is that we were a philosophy company first and the software came later, right? HubSpot started as a blog. Dharmesh and Brian Halligan started about like, hey, maybe B2B companies could get found online using Google and SEO, right? And then they launched some tools that were legitimately terrible. But the idea was right. The philosophy was correct and the tools caught up. I feel like now we are repeating that, right? HubSpot's traffic very famously cratered in the last few years. We have been the best in the world at SEO, and now suddenly we don't know how to do it. And this loop marketing thing is really what we believe will power the future. Our tools have not caught up. People try to do workshops on loop marketing using HubSpot. We're not quite there. We're not starting from zero like we did in 2006. But now that we finally figured out the philosophy, the methodology, the approach to marketing, again, now our tool set will catch up. I fully expect that story to play out almost identically.
We need to clip that section that needs to be on the internet, because I, as the human who spent 7 episodes talking about loop marketing, find that short, nice, sweet statement that Kyle said Refreshing.
Well, thank you, George.
Yeah, it's what we do. Unfortunately, you ushered in the George walk-off. George wishes we had another hour. We will have one next Wednesday at 10. Ending the show, thank you to the gracious and knowledgeable and very orange-clad hosts, Kyle, Chris, Casey, George. If you're watching this, catching the end of it, man, we got a doozy for you next week. Did you see George's body language? He could probably do another full hour right now just on that. We will have the clip for you. Chris, grab that. We'll put it up. And if you want to be on the show, if you want to call in and have us help out with a problem live, real time, George says send all your complaints and feedback to Chris at whatever that is. But send us something. We'll get you on. Thanks for spending an hour with us. And see you next time on the HubSpot Helpline.
Hello, you've reached the HubSpot helpline. Helpline. It's Rob, it's George, it's Casey, Kyle, and Chris. Admin, call in, then tune in. You can't miss this. Every Wednesday at 10. Streaming straight from LinkedIn. Helping with HubSpot. Building community is our philosophy, and we're so proud to be. Helping you with HubSpot.